Hello friends, this is Lada, and today I'm sharing a lot of important and interesting news from Russia. January has been a very important and very eventful month, and Putin announced a quiet revolution. This was my article exclusive to my Patreon members, and today I'm sharing it with you free in video form on YouTube and elsewhere. The article entitled Putin's Quiet Revolution, New Constitution, New Government, New Future for Russia and the World. It was part 1 of what has become Urshift Report 28 in 4 parts. And today I'm sharing the video version, which is part 2 of this report. It is based on part 1, which was written, but it has a lot of important updates, addendums, and new information, which will be in the very end. I will share a snippet from part 3 as well, which is exclusive to my patrons who contribute $10 and above. And of course, now you can also purchase it on ladare.com as Urshift Report for a donation. All links will be in the description box below this video, and of course go on ladare.com or on Patreon, where you also can get links. If you're a member of Patreon, ladare.com, the site, you know, that's my main portal. You can also type in ladare.info and you will get to the same portal. Now let's see what we will discuss in this specific piece. The long-awaited changes to the Russian constitution. Putin voluntarily diminishing the powers of the president and limiting his term. Surprise resignation of the old government and Dmitry Medvedev. New government led by the unlikely taxman. Major support of poor families and families with kids, and emphasis on demographics and increasing the population of Russia. The living wage increase. The strengthening of the parliament, that is Russian Duma powers. How entire report will be a lot bigger than that, and in part 3 and part 4 we also discuss how the political and economic structure and policies of Russia will change, and what is Putin's real master plan, who will replace indispensable Lavrov and Shoigu, whether this replacement even happens or whether they stay in their positions. I discuss all this in part 3. What will happen when Putin leaves in 2024? And actually that's also discussed in my most important part 3. So I dispel in this part and the next part, part 3, I'll dispel silly rumors circulating in the West and give you in-depth, up-to-date, real facts, analysis, and my special Urshift and the time of Russia predictions. So due to special importance of these events, there are 4 parts to this entire report. Part 1 was written, and that includes the summary and timeline of events, the real facts as opposed to sensationalist rumors, and detailed overview. And it's available to all members of Ladare Patreon. This is the video part. You're listening to this video part. That's my narrated video summary and timeline, real facts, detailed overview, and video imaging, but also new updates, which are in the end. So listen to the very end of this video, where you will hear a lot of more interesting things and more up-to-date information. And part 3 is video analysis and predictions. Very important. That's where the most important stuff is. And here I reveal the deep truths behind the facts and give you my long-term Urshift predictions and Putin enigma interpretations for all the events and changes coming, what they mean for Russia and how they'll affect the future of the world. And part 4, that's the new part, brand new part, new government of Russia, new and familiar faces, what they're famous for and what to expect. And I will show you, this part is coming, and this is in draft form so far. You see a lot of pictures here, never seen before. This is the new government of Russia I'm showing here, and I will discuss what that means, who those people are, Lavrov and Shoigu, and all this is coming in part 4. But we are back to our current part, Putin's new grandmaster move. The global chess master Vladimir Putin has surprised everyone again. His move was completely unexpected and shocking to many of those who understand, neither him nor Russia. It was not unexpected and in fact very much anticipated by me. The move is complex and epic, and we will be talking about it for some time, possibly for a very long time. I also want to add, this is not in the article, the thing is that it will be unfolding. Little by little, some things will be known to us, but major strategic things will be hidden for a while, and that's for a very good reason. Russia has too many enemies, and these enemies plot to destroy or damage Russia one way or another. Also, the names of various new ministers, key people in the new government, etc., were concealed for a while, even though information was known way ahead of time. I will talk about that in the future as well. This was concealed for a reason, so nobody could be corrupted, such as the new Prime Minister of Russia, Mishustin. That was probably known for some months, at least for 2-3 months, and this move was prepared ahead of time, but he was concealed, he was hidden, he was away from the cameras, and that is for a very, very good reason, because he was non-public, so that nobody could corrupt him or nobody could get to him one way or another. So the entire consequences of what has happened will only be revealed in time, but in part 3, special overview, I will reveal to you everything that happened and everything that I'm foreseeing, dispel the silly and ignorant rumors and gossip circling around the Western MSM, and provide my long-term Earth-shift analysis and predictions. What does all this mean for the future of Russia and the world? That's part 3. For several years now, I was wondering when Putin would finally begin making these major moves of changing the constitution, reformatting the power structure and government, plus resetting Russia's political and economic direction. This was foreseen, and the government and Putin were criticized for not acting fast enough, but I know exactly why he was waiting. I was guessing it would be in the middle of his last term, when it's the safest to do. He did exactly that, and the fact that it's done to coincide with the beginning of the new decade is especially fitting, don't you think? All these moves are designed to secure his legacy and build Russia's new, stronger foundation for centuries to come. I personally would want him to stay in power for as long as possible. I'd love for Lavrov and Shoigu to remain much longer too. And at the time I wrote this article, on January 17th, it was not known that Lavrov and Shoigu are in fact staying. And I said, well, life is life, we'll see what happens. But point is, Lavrov and Shoigu are staying, and that will be discussed, and much more interesting stuff will be talked about in part 4, which is upcoming. Back to this, what is real facts and their consequences? During his annual address to the Federal Assembly, that was January 12th, Putin announced major changes to the Russian constitution. Written in 1990s by Clinton advisors, just think about it for a moment, foreign advisors of a foreign power, namely USA, was writing the constitution of Russia, unheard of. So that was done by Yeltsin's request and by insistence by the USA, that USA knows better than Russia what to do. And that served as an instrument of Western interference in Russia's affairs. The calls to rewrite the constitution have been heard for many years, and I predicted this would happen in Earth-shift webinar 6, the Putin Enigma. You remember this webinar? It's on Lada. If you go on lada.com or you can type it lada.info, you know this site, that's my main portal. This is the home page. If you go into home page, what you see is this is what you see on when you type in lada.com or lada.info, and you can access, if you scroll down, you access my webinars here. These are all the webinars. This is the Putin Enigma right here. But you can also go, if you go up, you can go through premium programs. You click on premium programs and you see my premium programs here, including webinars and Earth-shift reports. You can click on that. That takes you to the Earth-shift report page or to webinar page, or drop-down menu does the same. These are webinars, and under webinars, you get all my webinars. Scroll down. This is the Putin Enigma right here. You can purchase it here. Okay, or by clicking, you just click here and it takes you to the webinar page here, or you go directly to webinars, or when you want Earthshift report, you click on the drop down menu, it takes you there. So all main political parties have backed Putin's proposals, which is almost unheard of. Usually there are criticisms from LDPR, which is Zhirinovsky's right-wing party, from the communists, the left-wing party. Usually there is plenty of criticism from various oppositions. But here everybody was united that Putin, that Putin has to dismiss Medvedev, and Medvedev resigned of his own volition and announced resignation of his government. He did that following President Putin's announcement saying that since the new constitution structure is being built, a new government is needed. This, I can guarantee to you, was discussed in advance, and it was coordinated between Putin and Medvedev how and when that would happen. But you saw a lot of stunned faces in the audience amongst the Duma members and amongst ministers who were not privy of what is going to happen. Yet some faces were calm, and it was clear that they actually knew this would happen. I discuss who knew what in part 3 and maybe in part 4 as well. Putin announced at the same time that the powers of the Russian president will be curtailed and the Duma powers will increase according to the new constitution. Therefore, the Duma can now elect and form future government. I'm sure Putin has thought about constitution and other changes for years, but the right moment only presented itself now. While others, such as presidents of China or Turkey, only consolidate power and give themselves more time in office, Putin has voluntarily curbed the power of the Russian president. That concerns him and future Russian presidents. Why diminish his powers while giving more power to others? Is all consistent with my Putin Enigma predictions. Putin's true selfless role is to stabilize Russia, the great balancer, and do it quietly, peacefully, and amicably, something that seemed an impossible feat before. I'll explain everything fully in part 3 of this report. And what this means also is that it doesn't mean that Putin is leaving and completely cold turkey leaving. All this is explained in part 3. It will be a very gradual ceding of power after he leaves in 2024 as president. But there will be other positions he may occupy one way or another, and changes in the constitution and new laws, such as the state committee law, etc., that will be applied later. And all this is explained in part 3, and maybe I'll add a few more pointers in the addendum of part 4. The constitution will also establish absolute presidential 2-term limit versus previous consecutive 2-term limit, thus limited president's lifetime term to no more than 12 years. The president's power to appoint PM and the cabinet is now given to the Duma. President can suggest PM but cannot appoint him or her. Currently, the law is that president can only stay for 2 consecutive terms. However, if he skips a term or 2 later, he can again run for president. That's what Putin has been doing. He ran for president, then he skipped the term, and Medvedev was president for 4 years. At the time, it was only 4-year term. And then he ran again, won by a landslide, and again, this is his 2nd consecutive term. So going forward, only 2 lifetime terms can be served, and that's 12 years max. So what that does, that limits the power of the president and ability of president. If, say, for example, the president is unworthy, it's not Putin now is the most popular and most influential politician in the world. He literally is that grand master. There's nobody like him in the world, and in Russia he is extremely highly respected, unlike Medvedev, who actually was not very well liked. I explain why that is and what karmic consequences, what karmically Medvedev is to Russia, what he's a reincarnation of somebody very important from Russia's past, and why he is working out his karmic debt to Russia and to himself and to the world by being Medvedev, by being in this position. So instinctively he is not very well liked, because there is past lifetime that everybody feels. People don't know what they're feeling, but people do know that they're feeling something about Medvedev, something that repulses them from him. Yet he's very trusted by Putin, and there is a very good karmic reason for that. All that explained in the Putin Enigma and in part 3 of this report, which, as I said, is available on Patreon exclusively to 10 plus members, or for a donation. The president's power to appoint PM in the cabinet is now taken away from the president, yet again curbing his power, and now the Duma is the one appointing. But president can fire a PM or a minister who are not doing their job. New privileges and perks for poor families and families with kids are announced. I saw people, bloggers, I subscribe to one blogger who, she's a mother of 5 children, and the whole family, 7 of them, with her husband, they had to flee Ukraine because they are prosecuted by Ukraine Nazis, by the government, by the SBU, which is like CIA of Ukraine. And they were really taunted and prosecuted. They had to flee, basically with clothes on their backs. And they found a new home in Russia. And she was crying when she was hearing how much more benefits she will be getting, because she has 2 toddlers and 3 older kids. And she was very worried they wouldn't be able to sustain that many kids. Only the father is working, who is a scientist, and she is a stay-at-home mom. And it's not enough for 7 people. And so they, even though he makes very good money, and so these new perks for families with kids up to 7 years of age, it's unheard of. You know, the perks are great. They're terrific. People are very happy about it. As I said, many people were crying when they heard Putin announce these new perks and these new laws. And that was applauded by various parties who actually were offering all this. So all this is now going to be a part of the new laws, new educational system, free lunch, substantial bonuses. There is a major mother's capital that only mother can touch for education or for mortgage to buy a house. And there are very, very substantial lifetime benefits and monthly benefits. Kids get, especially poor families, get quite a bit. And then free lunch for all children of up until a certain age. And also there is new, the demographic problem in Russia is being addressed by that. I talk about it at length in part 3 again, and why this is important, how they are intending to resolve this whole problem. Also, there is a minimum wage increase, which is now the minimum wage can only be indexed to inflation and as good as the living wage. So the minimum wage cannot go below the living wage, which is the fight that is ongoing in the US, and it's not getting anywhere. But in Russia, it has been already discussed, approved by the Duma, and it's going to be part of the new laws, and the new government will address that. New small business support and economy digitalization initiatives are also announced. For the post of the PM, Putin proposed Mikhail Mishustin, the head of the Federal Tax Service. He also has been very quickly approved and lauded by the entire Duma as the new PM. He was a complete unknown to the world up until just a week ago. He was always in the shadows. As I said, kudos for that. They did a very good job keeping him away from the cameras. Nobody guessed that would be the new PM. That was an brilliantly executed special op. Putin is a master of that, master of amazing positive surprises. That's a great master, a grandmaster of chess, who is playing the chessboard and winning every time. So why an unknown? Why a taxman? This nomination really shocked everybody. That's the new PM you're seeing in this picture. And immediately speculation started that he would only be an interim PM, replaced very soon, or that Putin is trying to diminish the role of the PM and ministers while increasing his power. Also that this guy, Mishustin, is completely under Putin's thumb and basically a yes man. Nothing could be further from the truth. And the exact opposite is true. In part 4, I will explain to you who the new ministers are and how much leeway Mishustin actually got in naming the new ministers. Is actually amazing. That also nobody, all these supposed predictors and analysts and gurus, they could not predict any of that. In reality, PM and the cabinet get more executive power, and the power of the Duma and these parties is growing substantially, but also the responsibility. There is no known precedent in modern history when a sitting head of state has voluntarily decreased his or her own power. The opposite is usually true. The real demand of the Yellow Vests in France is to decrease the power of Macron one way or another. They want to curb his powers as president. As some French people told me. In other countries, there are similar protests, people demanding less power for the presidents and heads of state. In neighboring Ukraine, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan, and different other countries of the world, presidents all try to grab more power for themselves. And it's ongoing kind of battle everywhere, ongoing headlines where you see, oh, such and such grabbed more power, or such and such is like an absolute ruler. Putin does the opposite. And also look what Trump is doing, almost starting wars without asking Congress for approval, which is against the law. China removed the limit on how many years Xi Jinping could be president. And if he wants, he now can remain in power for life. Erdogan is systematically consolidating his power in Turkey. He is basically a sultan. Against the background I just painted for you is only Putin, who is initiating the opposite action and ceding power voluntarily, part of his power. It takes a very special kind of person to do that. And the reason he does that, as I was telling you previously, is to leave the right legacy and to reset Russia on the right direction. Also to limit the future power of that president who will come after him, because there's no guarantee. The president definitely will be much less charismatic, less intelligent, less popular, and less of a person who is the grandmaster, who can play this global chessboard and win all the time. So to safeguard the future of Russia from potential fools in power, for example, or people who are inept or cowards in power or anything, Russia had those examples before when a very strong person comes to power, and after that it's a lot of upheaval and power struggle. So he takes away the power from one person and gives it to the collective, to various branches of power. He stabilizes Russia. The result of Putin's actions will be tremendously beneficial long term. This will greatly strengthen the Russian state and give it more stability in the future. Putin's unprecedented move confirms in spades all my predictions made in previous years regarding Putin's role of resetting the world for the new millennium and the Aquarian age, strengthening and fortifying Russia, the great balancer, so it could fulfill its leading role in the 21st century, according to Edgar Cayce and Baba Vanga prophecies. This is the time of Russia and our shift. If you are new for my detailed narrative and predictions on this topic, listen to the Putin Enigma webinar, The Future of Money, Inverted Collapse, and Period 8 Global Predictions. And these are the Urshift webinars. If you click here, I will post links in the description box below this video, especially these 3 webinars that I'm showing here. That's what I'm recommending in this regard. So Mr. Mishustin, Mikhail Mishustin, new PM. Mishustin is 53. He is a rich man himself, and he has created the world's best automated tax collection system, lauded by everyone in Russia and beyond. Russian revenues are up greatly, up to 25% in the past 2 years. Russia is practically the world's only country, or one of the very few, where 96% of people are happy with the tax system and gladly paid their taxes. This was not the case at all in the 1990s and in the early 2000s. And ever since Mishustin came into this office, taxes were stabilized at a personal tax of 12% only in Russia, one of the lowest in the world. And some businesses may pay even only 3-4% or none for a few years until they establish themselves. And yet revenues, tax revenues, are up by about 25% in Russia. And Mishustin and his people, there's a joke that he knows everything about everybody in Russia. They automated you literally wherever you are. You might be looking at property or a business transaction anywhere in the country. It's all automated and it's fully transparent. You can find it by just like one keyword, and you can find the exact situation, money involved, what went into that transaction. Everything is automated, and he created that system. Well, there's more to it, obviously. Mishustin was almost unanimously confirmed as interim PM by the Duma, and he will be soon confirmed as a real long-term PM. The only ones abstaining were the communist faction in the Duma. They explained they didn't know what the actual composition of the government was, and therefore couldn't vote. But now we already have the new government confirmed, and that was also confirmed practically by a landslide by the Duma. Dmitry Medvedev resigned together with his government, and he will become the deputy chairperson of the Security Council of the Russian Federation, the organization that was in the shadows but is getting more and more importance. It is being put basically in a very important niche where strategic decisions will be made. And of course there is another sector. I discuss it in part 3 in detail, and maybe I'll mention it about part 4, Государственный Совет, the State Soviet or the State Council, that is getting a lot more importance as well. And the State Council might be responsible. There's no law that defines its true responsibilities, because that was actually a dormant organization before, not very important. It's becoming very important now. And this organization, this government body, will in the future be responsible for the long-term strategic development of the Russian Federation. And Putin already is the head, the chairperson of both the Security Council and the Государственный Совет, the State Soviet, and eventually those two bodies will be given very separate and very strong roles within crafting and kind of like managing the Russian Federation, especially on the strategic and security sides. This is also very important. It has not been fully shaped yet, because this is unprecedented. This will be shaped up in this year and next year, and Putin intends, he has every intention to leave Russia as strong, as stable as possible in 2024 when his term expires. Mark my words, that's one of my key predictions. A lot more in parts 3 and 4. The present government has served its caretaking duties now that the new government is already named. When I wrote this article, there was no new government. The new government has already been fully approved by the Duma. Also, Putin and the Duma agreed that there will be some sort of popular vote or informal referendum to approve the new constitution. And the majority already approves based on the initial reactions. The constitutional changes will go through sometime this year, anywhere between March and September, not knowing yet when the referendum will take place. I also wrote this addendum that's specifically, especially for today's video version. The new government was formed in record time and is already functioning. This also was a great surprise to the world, as this process was expected to last longer. This confirms what I said in part 3 of this Earthshift Report 28, Putin's secret master plan and Russia after Putin, the great balancer and world future revealed. This was a pre-planned move, and new Prime Minister Mishustin had thought about who would be in his government beforehand. For him, as well as for some key people in the Duma, Russian and Moscow city governments, this wasn't a surprise. It wasn't a surprise to Lavrov, Shoigu, and to the powerful mayor of Moscow, Sobyanin, as well as a lot of other key people. The reason is clear, is their body language and behavior. As to the mayor of Moscow, we know he knew because some of the key members of his team, who made Moscow in the past 2 years the world's most attractive city and #1 tourist destination, Moscow basically won an Oscar for cities, made it into the new government. Read and watch this free post on Futurist Trendcast blog. If you go to futuristtrendcast.wordpress.com, that's my blog. The link is in the description box. There is a free post there, The Magical and Awe-Inspiring City of Light, Moscow Celebrates New Year 2020. That post will tell you what Moscow really looks like now, after it was transformed by Sobyanin and his people. Some people are highly regarded and lauded, and they are part of the new government. And I will tell you about who is who in this government in part 4. So you listen to part 2, the video version of the above written piece, plus additional info and addendum. I'm showing you part 3 right now. It is currently available for my patrons on Patreon. However, it is also now becoming available as independent Earthshift Report 28 for a donation. So what this is a snippet I will read to you. Is called Secret Master Plan in Russia after Putin, the great balancer and world future revealed. So in this part, I will read you a snippet. I give you a complete in-depth analysis, intel, and my predictions regarding Putin's January 2020 peaceful revolution. This is the real truth, not the drivel and lies based on jealousy, hatred, and low calibrations you often hear in the West. The West is scared of Putin and Russia for a very good reason. Putin outplayed them very well every single time, and he's done it again. And he's doing it without sacrificing his principles, lying or cheating, without changing his views depending on where the wind blows. They know they're nothing compared to him, and they're very scared the world will see that very clearly. This is why they try to vilify him every chance they have, but no one who has half a brain believes their lies anymore. In this part 3, I discuss, this is the extended summary, what Putin's real master plan is and what to expect next, why the Russian constitution written in the 90s by Clinton advisors had to be changed and what was rotten about it, the real truth about new political structure of Russia, who gets more and who gets less power, why January 2020, what was Putin doing for the past 20 years and why he made his move only now, how this quiet revolution makes Russia bulletproof to future challenges, what will happen in 2024 when Putin's term ends, how the great balancer repeatedly saved the world at its own expense and what will change in this regard, who is really the new PM Mikhail Mishustin, why businesses and people alike rejoice, new economic direction, Western rule books are being thrown out and what to expect, why Medvedev was transferred to the Security Council, did he know in advance about upcoming Putin's revolution, was Putin unhappy with Medvedev's government, who knew and who didn't, who looked prepared and for whom it was a total shock. What does the new law mean as proposed by Putin? Civil servants cannot be permanent residents or citizens of other countries, curbing the power of the president while giving more power to the Duma and regional governments, the real truth about Russia's demographic situation and unprecedented focus on people's well-being, major new and expanded support for families with kids, amazing mother's capital, free lunch, and living wage boost. Russia to become what USA was in the 20th century, why it's profitable to give birth in Russia, who will fill the minister's seats, and what will happen to the world's two most popular ministers, and my predictions regarding Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov's testament and legacy. Will there be resignation of the world's #1 diplomat, or will he be back? Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu and Russian military. What will happen with the world's most powerful military man? What are the consequences for Russia and the world's future? My Earthshift predictions. All this in part 3. And part 4, as I was telling you previously, about the new government. And all new and old faces. We go over them, and there are some remarkable, highly professional. It's characterized as incredibly professional, as surprisingly well put together government. That's what people say about this new government, both in Russia and beyond. And of course, there is a lot of drivel and a lot of jealousy that is also going on. This all should have been expected. You can join a Lada Patreon. And this is how you join it. This is my Patreon site. You can join by clicking here once you go to patreon.com/LadaRay, right there. And you click on join, or you click on any of my links from my posts, and you can join through that, because it will tell you what you need in order to join and direct you to the right page. It's very easy to join. So I hope to see you on Lada Patreon soon. Also remember my webinars. If you want to see Earthshift reports, and Earthshift report is here. That's the Earthshift report. And you scroll down, Earthshift report 28 will be here. I'm posting it literally as we speak. And you saw the Earthshift report. You can donate, as you can donate for previous reports. All the Earthshift reports are posted here. They are accessible to public through a donation. And please join me there as well. As another addendum, I also want to show you this image. That's Putin meeting with Mishustin, the new PM. That's some of the recent information. This is courtesy RT. That's a video on YouTube. Very easy to find if you want it. It's in English. So this is the acting government. At this point, the government will become full force government a little bit later. But yeah, you see Lavrov and Shoigu here. Wanted to show you this information as well. And another little episode, what is happening in Russia, what has happened, all this has become a shock to some post-Soviet republics, especially to Belarus. What you see here is Lukashenko, and this is Putin and Medvedev, and they're discussing something very animatedly, but the point is that Lukashenko now blames Medvedev and the former government of Russia in not allowing Russia and Belarus to integrate fully into one state. That's actually a lie. He never got along. Lukashenko and Medvedev practically hated each other. They loathed each other, while Lukashenko always underscored how wonderfully they have a peace meeting of the minds with Putin. In reality, Lukashenko is slowly losing his mind. I mean, some people will not say that, but he is becoming paranoid and very, very unpleasant and very scandalous. And he has elections coming. What happened in Russia increases the sovereignty of Russia and actually sidetracks Belarus and the integration process. And Lukashenko is panicking. I might do another separate piece on that. We'll see how we go. So that's going to be later. Okay, friends, this is the end of this episode, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please click on like under this video. Your likes tell me that what I'm sharing with you is something that you appreciate, that you like my information. If you do, then I will be able to share more with you in the future. This helps me shape my future offerings for your best benefit. So likes and comments help me out tremendously. I hope to see them. Thank you very much. You have a great day. Bye-bye.